Where Crysis 1 and 2 were non-emotional shoot-fests designed around the theme of look at the pretty shaders, Crysis 3 represents a somewhat surprising, if slight, turn for the series. Indeed, the incredible graphics are still present and are gorgeous whether you're running it on low or very high, and the shooting hasn't changed either. What's been added is a sense of connection to the game's main characters, who are given a new life that Crysis 2 tried to breathe into them but utterly failed in doing, and which Crysis 1 never even attempted. This emotional connection to the game's main characters helps to overcome some of the large stumbling blocks that dog Crysis 3, ones that shouldn't even be in here thanks to the way in which they failed in the series' second entry. Poor vehicle controls, boring boss fights, and a completely linear mission system and repetitive enemies bog Crysis 3 down. The original Crysis still stands alone as the pinnacle of the series despite the lack of storyline, but the latest incarnation in the series is a close runner-up. Instead of running around on an open island shooting Koreans while aliens start filling the sky, we're stuck on a collapsed and very linear New York City, where the Cell Corporation from Crysis 2 has now virtually taken over the Earth thanks to their power monopoly. You, as the not-so-silent protagonist, get to shoot, punch, and jump your way through the slimy squid aliens to rescue the city and the world from total annihilation. So, is Crysis 3 a game you should play? The answer, without a doubt, is a resounding yes. The most important reason to play Crysis 3 is the main reason we play games. It's fun. I mean, who doesn't like pinning your enemies to the wall with a recursive bow while you're cloaked, then turning around and hacking an enemy turret to turn it against them? This leads into my main problem with Crysis 3, the lack of choice. The first Crysis game made us feel like we had a choice in what we did, even if we were still following a fairly linear path through the missions, due in no small part to the setting. It's much easier to feel like you can go wherever you want in an open island than a collapsed city, so Crysis 3 feels boxed in. Sure, I can choose to stealth kill enemies, avoid them, hack their mines or turrets and turn them against them, or just go in guns blazing, but those are choices we get in every other game. Crysis and the Warhead expansion actually felt open and alive, while Crysis 2 and 3 feel much more boxed in and linear. Granted, Crysis 3's linearity is far superior in feeling to Crysis 2, which felt like a rail shooter half the time. I've not felt that way at any point in Crysis 3, though I've never truly felt like I could approach objectives however I want. The lack of even the illusion of choice bothers me, though perhaps it's not possible to do in a collapsed city setting. Or perhaps the game designers took the easy way out, using the collapsed structures of New York to their advantage and creating a linear gameplay, not wanting to put in the effort to make it feel more open, even if it's not. On more than one occasion I power jumped to a ledge that I should have been able to reach, or fell off of a building from a height that should not have killed me, yet failed each time because where I wanted to go wasn't a location where the game wanted me to go. When I'm a super soldier fighting aliens in a stunningly beautiful city, I think I've earned the right to climb a dirt wall just as easily as a brick one, even if it means I might be trekking off of the beaten path. Guns and enemies, both human and alien, feel good, if not a bit repetitive at times. The audio design and the weapons in Crysis 3 is exquisite, and though the new Typhoon felt like I was shooting BBs instead of steel balls, it sounded like 1,000 swarms of angry bees pouring out when I pulled the trigger, which was perfectly acceptable to my ears. For the first few missions, the enemy selection is unique, but once you've seen an enemy soldier and the two variations of alien soldiers that exist, you've seen them all. Enemy AI is suitable but not stunning, though it's nice to see that, once you cloak, your enemies will try and follow your last visible movements to determine where you're hiding. The novelty of this wears off after the first few times, and you'll soon learn to split off in a different direction after cloaking to sit and hide until taking the next shot with your fancy new bow. While the normal enemies are at worst tolerable, the boss fights are downright atrocious, lacking any substance beyond throwing every bullet you have at the squids while in armor mode and then spending a few seconds hiding behind boulders while your energy recharges. No strategy is required in these situations, leading to a few missions that I'd rather not replay, simply because of the horrible boss fights at the end of them. In the Crysis world, the nanosuit has always taken center stage as a sort of invisible player, a multi-purpose tool brought out to solve big problems promptly before being utterly ignored once again. Crysis 3 plays on this somewhat by bringing the nanosuit to the forefront in a very visible way through your buddy Psycho, as well as the temporary relationship to Claire, Psycho's love interest. One of the most gripping scenes in Crysis 3 was during the death of one of the, up until that point, main characters, where a combination of script, voice acting, and mood setting was exceptionally well done. For the first time in a Crysis game, I actually felt a spark of connection and caring to and for Psycho, and understood some of what's been driving Prophet in his journey to destroy the squids that are once again about to enslave the planet. Seeing this type of emotional connection in a series whose first two entries were completely lacking in emotion makes me happy, and is a big reason why I like Crysis 3 despite its many flaws. Speaking of flaws in a nanosuit, let's get something worked in the next patch, shall we? If my supersuit can tell me that my health is at a critical level, why can't it tell me what my health level is all the time? I understand, and in many cases enjoy, the removal of health bars in modern games, but if you're going to flash red text on the screen telling me that my health is critical, then it'd be nice if I had some inkling of what that actually means, instead of having to blindingly rush for cover, hoping that my energy charges enough to enable my armor before I die. If you liked Crysis 1, hated Crysis 2, like Far Cry 3, and enjoy AAA shooters, you'll enjoy Crysis 3. I haven't tried the multiplayer, and I don't intend to, because I bought it specifically for the single player experience, and I'm glad I did. It's a huge sigh of relief when compared to Crysis 2, and in the overall scheme of things, despite its retention of Crysis 2's linearity, it's an excellent game that can stand on its own. By finding the right balance of gunplay and an emotional connection to the story and characters, Crysis 3 has managed to overcome its flaws, a fact that I'm very grateful for.